Well, at around midday today, Gillian Duffy, an ordinary 65-year-old pensioner, left that house there. It looked very different then. It was quiet. Little did she realise then that just a few hours later, she would be across the political headlines, across the country, at the centre of a political storm. She had an encounter with Gordon Brown on that trip out to the shops, and what followed later was this.
Should never have put me with that woman. Whose idea was that?
No, I didn't see.
Just a sort of bigoted woman.
What did I say to be bigoted there? How would you react if somebody said that to you? Very upsetting.
Gordon Brown recorded on tape, but off camera, as he was driving away from his encounter with Gillian, describing her as a bigot. Since then, it has been an afternoon of apology after apology from Gordon Brown. First of all, on the Jeremy Vine show on BBC Radio 2, during that interview with Jeremy Vine. And then he rang Gillian up himself on the phone and apologised. And then they decided that he should come here and face up to her in her home behind me and apologise face to face.
If you like, I'm a penitent sinner. I wanted to come here and say to Gillian, I was sorry, to say that I'd made a mistake, but to also say I understood the concerns that she was bringing to me, and I had simply misunderstood some of the words that she used.
So, an extraordinary day for an average pensioner. She has been a Labour voter all her life, as was her late husband, who died 4 years ago from cancer. The generation before them, Labour voters too. So, Naomi Cornwell today has been looking at the day's developments.
Satellite trucks, cameras, the cream of the UK's political correspondents, reporters and photographers. Oh yes, and an impromptu prime ministerial visit. If this didn't get the lace curtains of Tinton Avenue twitching, nothing would. And all because this lady took a trip to the shops and bumped into Gordon. And, as she is wont to do, decided to speak her mind.
You can't say anything about the immigrants because you're saying that but all these Eastern Europeans what are coming in, where are they flocking from?
A million people come from Europe, but a million people, British people, have gone into Europe. You do know there's a lot of British people staying in Europe as well. Look, come back to what your initial principles.
After giving the PM a Rochdale earful, Mrs Duffy, a retired council worker, headed home, only to be ambushed minutes later by a gleeful press pack, whose mobile phones had just exploded with news of that gaffe. So how did she feel to be called a bigot by the man who runs the country?
Very upsetting. What did I say to be bigoted there? What was bigoted in that, what I said? I just asked about national debt.
So who is Gillian Duffy, the woman whose chance encounter might have had more influence on this campaign than Nick Clegg's star performance or several hundred pages of carefully worded manifestos? She's a 66-year-old widow, a lifelong Labour supporter, until this morning anyway. Her husband was a painter and decorator. She worked for the council caring for disabled children, and her family isn't surprised at her new role as Rochdale's chief political pundit.
Jill does speak her mind, and she's well educated anyhow, so no, I weren't surprised at all, really, no.
Did it upset you at all when you heard what she'd been called?
No, not really, no, it were a massive gaffe, weren't it, really, if you think about it.
Already, 33 Facebook sites have been set up about Mrs Duffy. It's unlikely Gordon Brown will be requesting to be her friend.
So our political editor Arif Ansari is here. Arif, Labour's election campaign has gone disastrously off course today.
Well, absolutely. I mean, first of all, there's no surprise that Gordon Brown was here today because this is a very marginal seat. At the last general election, it was won by the Liberal Democrats. Since then, there have been boundary changes, and that means that it's officially a Labour seat, but only just by a majority of just 149. So every vote really does count here.
He's lost one today, though, hasn't he? She's got a postal vote, which she says she's now not going to use, and it's the ripple-out effect from what he said to this woman here.
Absolutely. He's lost one vote, but the question is how many more has he lost here as well? So there's no doubt, Ranveer, that Labour's campaign has been damaged here in Rochdale, but the question now becomes how much has it been damaged across the entire country? Suddenly, everyone wants to know what's happening in Rochdale. The football club's been recently promoted, but Gordon Brown could be relegated. This evening, everyone's calculating what the reaction to a few sentences recorded in Rochdale will be.
Well, it shows everything that he's saying behind the scenes, isn't it? You know, I mean, when he's on camera and everything like that, he's saying, you know, all the right things, I suppose, and in these debates and everything. But then it's what you say behind the scenes and everything that people don't see.
I've always voted Labour, and I still will do, but it will affect other people, you know, especially what he said, and they probably will change their mind.
I understand, like, he made a comment and his mic was on and he didn't know, so, I mean, if you're saying something, you should say it to her, I mean, not, like, make a comment and then come back and say sorry.
Rochdale has quite a political history. The cameras were here in 1958 for television's first ever coverage of a by-election. The cooperative movement was founded here, and as Rochdale's MP, Sir Cyril Smith gave the town a hefty profile. Well, I've just been told that the Labour candidate Simon Danchuk is inside but hasn't got time to talk to us, and that's apparently because he's busy ringing up voters. Well, he's certainly got his work cut out, because due to boundary changes, this is notionally a Labour seat, but with the tiniest majority of just 149. It's a political cliché, but here every vote really does count. The town's economy is suffering. Two big employers, a Woolworths distribution centre and My Travel HQ, have shut. 1 in 5 shops in the town centre are empty. Perhaps no wonder then that immigration is a concern. But at a nearby pub, I found drinkers wary of discussing it.
Well, you're not frightened to speak up anymore, aren't you? You can't say, because you can't say it.
I mean, they're coming over here, they're taking all the jobs. They're working for a tenth of what we work for.
The fact is, whether we like it or not, immigration is always in the top 5 concerns of the British electorate. So it's a difficult one. I mean, the problem is, you know, what other gaffes may lie in wait? You know, we've still got 7 days of campaigning to go. All the signs are that, you know, Gordon Brown is not firing on all cylinders in this campaign. He needs to. He's trailing in the polls, and he can't afford any more gaffes, that's for sure.
Gordon Brown planned only a flying visit to Rochdale. 1 voter, 1 microphone and 1 Prime Minister has changed all that. Arif Ansari, BBC North West Tonight, Rochdale.
Well, as Gillian Duffy remains ensconced in that house there, and who else could blame her but to stay in there, Labour's big names have been coming out, Peter Mandelson, Alistair Darling in various media, to react to what Gordon Brown said and to sort of say that it was a mistake, but mistakes are sometimes made. And Gordon, you've been speaking to Andy Burnham, the Lee MP too, yes?
Yeah, indeed I have, Ranveer, and Labour have been just working overtime to try and limit the damage, while their opponents have been enjoying a field day over the gaffe. Shadow Chancellor George Osborne said the public was seeing the contrast between what Gordon Brown said in public and what he said in private. Lib Dem leader Nick Clegg said just because someone disagrees with you, you shouldn't insult them. Well, a little earlier, as Ranveer said, I put it to Labour's Andy Burnham that this was all a total disaster for Labour's election hopes.
Well, it's not been a good day at all, obviously. Gordon, the other Gordon, made a mistake. It was wrong, what he said. I think, being his own harshest critic, he will bitterly regret it and will feel mortified.
You say he's a very caring man, and you've worked very hard on his image recently to portray him as a man of substance and a very caring man in touch with the people. But here he was, up with a Labour supporter who had genuine concerns, as many people have, about what's going on, and the reward for that was that he called her a bigot and said the whole meeting was a total disaster.
In my own constituency in Lee and around the North West, that immigration is a real concern at this election. The other thing that the Prime Minister wouldn't want is to give any sense that we don't think people should be talking about immigration and raising legitimate concerns. And I want to make that absolutely clear tonight. People have raised it very frequently with me in Lee. I understand people's concerns about immigration, and they need to be debated and addressed and discussed, and they should be.
Well, Gillian Duffy is, ironically, a Labour voter and a Labour supporter all her life, and she is the sort of person, is she not, that Labour desperately needs to hang on to in their heartlands, like Rochdale, where you need to win in this election, and yet he blows that sky high by calling her a bigot for asking a straightforward question.
Well, yes, I suppose, in a word, you know, of course, you know, it doubles the agony. I mean, we wouldn't obviously want to cause any offence.
Well, you're showing your support from there, and there are many people in the Labour Party who feel he is a liability. Has he not just proved that?
Really, I mean, this is a man who's taken the country through incredibly testing and challenging times, and who has shown great judgment in those hours of real crisis particularly when the financial system faced meltdown. Now, Gordon is human like us all. As I say, believe it or not, we are fallible, we are human beings, and we set high standards for ourselves, and there is nobody more than Gordon Brown who sets high standards for himself and is his harshest critic when he falls short of those.
Andy Burnham, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Gordon.